Now, I don't say this often.
I don't say this often.
Now, I don't say this often. He's going to be a wild card in the league.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wildcards Podcast. I'm here once again, joined by my favorite two co-hosts. I guess I don't really know if they're my favorite. They're the only ones I've ever had. So, but take it away, guys. What are your guys' names? If you don't, know.
I'm the favorite. Joshua. I'm the favorite for sure.
And I'm Brandon, but I'm pretty sure if we ever ran a poll, I think everyone would vote for me. So that's all.
Well, you don't talk enough to get on the poll. So
exactly, because y'all two have a yap session every time.
It's called a podcast. That's what you're supposed to do. Is kind of
all right. Let's get right into the news before we spew off on an argument here. Let's talk about some big news that happened earlier this past week. Rashid Rice, Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champion. It turns out he's a speed racer. He had some problems. He was in a Lamborghini and he got in a car accident, and he was seen running away from the scene. And he is now cooperating apparently with law enforcement after he got in touch with his lawyer. And I could be wrong. I think a few hours ago I saw a report on Twitter, the most reliable area to get any type of news, just in case you were wondering. But I saw multiple people say it, linked to a few sites, so I think it's credible that there was some marijuana uncovered in the car. Again, take that with a grain of salt because I'm not involved into the court case, but I'm pretty sure I saw that. So there's definitely some stuff going on, and whether or not you're a believer in allowing marijuana, that doesn't really matter. I'm just saying that for the fact that it's illegal where he got arrested, which was Texas, or not arrested, but the case is going on. Which is in Texas. So that just adds to the case. Not anything about whether it should be or should not be legal, but there's that. What do you guys think, man? What's going to happen? Is it a big suspension inbound, even maybe possibly a termination of the old contract, or is that too far?
Wait, who was the player? Henry Ruggs? Is that who we're talking about?
Man, I know there's a big trend of these people, dude. Trend of these people, just these guys who make so much money, man. These people come into the league and they just make poor decisions, and it's just really sad. And I pray that Rashid Rice stays in the league and makes some better decisions, but I don't know. Do you guys think he can stay in the league?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody died though, did they?
So I think there was one injured, but it was not nearly as bad as the Henry Ruggs incident where a woman and her dog passed away. But there definitely was still an accident, and that's something that we need to talk about. The situation with young men coming to the league and making these poor decisions. Brandon, what do you think? Is he going to stay in the league?
I think he stays in the league. I don't see the league really doing anything to him, penalty wise, like the NBA did with Ja Morant. Like Josh said, it's not as bad because he didn't kill anyone. Obviously, people are injured, and it's bad to be speed racing on the highway or the interstate with your Lambo and your Ferrari and everything with drugs. But I think this is a wake up call for him. High hopes for Rashid Rice, man.
And he's a young guy, dude. He's 23, right? 22, 23 years old. And he was
won a Super Bowl.
I mean, he's balling out. He's probably going to get a good contract, even bigger one if he keeps playing the way he's playing. He's a big option on their team. He's someone that for the time being where they don't have to pay him as much money. He's I mean, I've said it, but I think I've said it a few podcasts ago, maybe 3 or 4, or maybe 5 podcasts ago. These Super Bowl teams don't come around just because they compile the best players, and that was shown last year where the Chiefs didn't have the best offense in the league. They had a really good defense, but they didn't have the best offense, and they had all these younger guys who are still in their rookie contracts who are playing out of their minds on low contracts, so where they can pay for players on the defense, and what made it so good. So the Chiefs and the GM, although they did have a setback, by the way, this week. I think it was either Kansas or Missouri. I forget which state because it's on the border, Kansas City. I don't know which state the stadium is in, but there was I think a bill or a poll or some vote that happened where the citizens voted that they didn't want their taxpayer money to go towards renovations on the stadium, which I think actually, and maybe I'm biased because I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I think it's a big win for them because I think their taxes would have gone up a decent amount. It was a couple $100 million that they'd have to pay. And now that's going to have to, if they want to keep doing renovations, it's going to have to come out of the pockets of the owners, which I think is a win. But that's just a little side note. I think.
Yeah, but you got to think though, how much money those people are the city makes off of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's definitely other aspects. They definitely probably benefit in other ways, and it's their team, man. Let's say that happened in Minnesota for the Vikings.
Do that? Didn't the
Yeah, they
city fund
did
it?
for you. I'm not going to sit here and say like I contributed to that because I was young and I didn't make enough money to pay taxes. But and I actually don't know because some places do it differently. I think some people do it like tax on like sales tax, and there's just and I don't know how like what tax it takes away from. I'm not a lawyer or economist or any of that. So
Well, it's
policy.
not even that. It's just like all the like small businesses and everything
Sure.
around. Like they make a
Yeah.
lot of money during game days. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a give and take kind of thing. But the point you're making is like they don't want to spend the money on it. So like if I'm the Chiefs, I'm like, oh, you don't want to spend the money on me? I can go to somewhere else where
And
they want me.
the Chiefs have it super easy because like I think whatever state it was in, I think it was in I don't want I'm not confident,
I
but
think it's
whatever state it was,
Missouri.
Missouri. Yeah, if let's say it was Missouri, they're one of the easiest ones to move. They can just move. Let's say they had to, right? Let's say there was some severe thing where they had to move their stadium or which would obviously it's not to that point. But let's say they had to, they could easily just move it over right there. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, which probably wouldn't really affect anyone, but maybe the county over there could the voted in. But anyway, that's just a side note on the bigger issue, which is Rashid Rice. But we'll see what happens with him. Brandon, do you want to talk about Stefon Diggs?
Yeah, man. So, as y'all know, Stefon Diggs, former Buffalo Bill, just recently traded to the Houston Texans for a second round pick. The Bills gave up Stefon Diggs, a 2024 sixth round pick, and a 2025 fifth round pick, and the Texans gave up a 2025 second round pick. Now, I am not an NFL GM, but if I was and I had a player like Stefon Diggs on my team, I at least want a first round pick. I believe Stefon Diggs is first round pick valuable. I don't know why the Bills did this.
I have a theory.
Obviously, like I know like why they did it, but you're not even getting a pick for this year's draft. And a second round pick's valuable, but not as valuable as a first round pick.
Really?
That's
breaking news.
Groundbreaking, guys, fresh out of the Wildcards podcast. The league.
Anyway, but as Coleman was talking about like the Chiefs and how like their Super Bowl run, I think that's like what the Bills' path is going with. Because if you look at Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't have like a star receiver. I mean, now he has Hollywood Brown.
Kadarius Toney.
Rice. Kadarius Toney doesn't count. He has a tight end, and Pacheco runs the ball 20 times a game. So I think that's like what the Bills are going to try to do. Now, I do believe Josh Allen needs someone more than Curtis Samuel to, boost him up. But I mean, they do have Dawson Knox. I think James Cook breakout year for fantasy, though. I'll just put that out.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. He's gonna have so much more. He's gonna have such high ball carry percentage. And also, one thing to talk about is the trade value, which I think you brought up, Brandon. I think like going back to his time in Minnesota, which by the way, you didn't say former Viking, which I thought very disrespectful.
Oh, I just didn't know if like y'all still loved him.
Oh, we don't rock. We do not rock with Stefon.
I mean, he did just win you the Minnesota Miracle, so
yeah, we do have the Minneapolis Miracle, but at the same time,
okay.
but at the same time,
bad,
he got us. He also him leaving, we got the Justin Jefferson pick, so I'm fine with that. But at the same time, I mean, I said I had a theory. I mean, it's kind of like the obvious theory. Everyone knows why it was so cheap. It's because he's not gonna. I think there must have been some like informal under the table, like, hey, I'm not going to play my hardest. I'm not going to go out and try, which has been like kind of, he's a locker room cancer, man. That's what he is. Stefon Diggs is a locker room cancer. It's been well documented. Everyone talks about it. I mean, the stuff he said.
So much for getting him on the show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There you go. That bridge is now burned.
Colin, I have a question for you. Even though he is like a locker room cancer, the way I look at it is if I'm the GM of the Bills, I don't care like where he goes, if like he tells me he's not going to play if I keep him on my team, right? So you're like, I can't call up the Raiders and be like, give me your first round pick for Stefon Diggs and just trade him to where.
Well, no, because the teams know that. The teams definitely know that. Like they're not going to overpay. I don't think the teams like Oakland definitely knows. I mean, these guys in the league are so well informed.
It's the Vegas Raiders, bro. Are we serious?
Sorry. I apologize. Vegas knows that the Raiders know that. That he is a locker room cancer. Everyone knows it. It's like common knowledge. I'm sure no one's going to trade for a guy like that without knowing the baggage that comes along with that. And Houston must know. So I guess my thing is that like it was to the point where that's probably the maximum amount of value they could get out of him. And especially during like this, I mean, they probably need to start refiguring things out anyway if they want to try to make a run with Josh Allen, or he's going to be one of those guys that once the contract's end up, he's gone. So I don't know. The Bills must have a plan in mind, and obviously their plan did not involve Stefon Diggs. So with that out of the way, let's move on to Iowa versus LSU. Josh, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Iowa versus LSU, a rematch of last year's national championship. I think everybody remembers the epic game that they had. At the end, when they had it won, Angel Reese started talking crap. I don't think she talked crap the whole game till the very end, and she did the little hand in front of her face, John Cena can't see me celebration to Caitlin Clark. And Caitlin Clark took that as disrespect. And she went into the offseason. She said, you know what? I'm going to beat her explicit. Yeah, she came out and she did just that. She dropped a 40 ball on her head. Angel Reese only had 17 points. She fouled out of the game.
Didn't she have like 20 rebounds though? She actually kind of popped.
But like Iowa didn't have a center, so like
Sure.
she's expected to get that. And like if you watch the game, she missed how many layups and she got her own rebound.
She had a very poor game. It was unfortunate.
It's ridiculous. And then she, after the fact, like if you want to be the villain, she called herself the villain. Like she is the villain. That's what she says. She's the villain. And then she goes out and she cries after the fact, after losing the game. I get it. I mean, it's hard to lose a game like that, but if you the villain, you got to just be like, all right, I give you props. You can't make everybody feel bad for you because then you're not the villain anymore. That's just,
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't like the
there's-
post-game press conference, but whatever.
I feel like, and I mean, we can later we have, I think, Angel Reese committing to the WNBA. So we have that, and I just talk about Angel Reese for a second. I feel like, and we can also talk about HVL entering the transfer portal as well. But in terms of the Iowa and LSU game, but I think the important thing is that the women's game is definitely growing, and I think the thing that happened the most this year is the viewership as well as the increased exposure, at least I've seen on social media, especially with the last 2 years. I feel like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, especially because Caitlin Clark has been definitely probably in the media more. I don't know why, or maybe it's because she's like
She's the greatest women's basketball player of all time. Yeah.
I mean, there's an argument to be made. And so this rivalry between Angel Reese and LSU versus Caitlin Clark and Iowa has been entertaining, definitely. And I think it's doing good things for the women's sports, right? I know because there's the set a viewer record for a women's basketball game, 12.8 million average viewers. And then they hit a maximum of like 16 million. So
I'm sure it was like at the end of the game, people wanted to see how it was going.
Sure. But yeah, these are two great players, and they're obviously going to be awesome players in the WNBA. And I think this is another topic we could talk about later, but I think it's good that we have these rivalries in women's sports. It's very good.
Oh yeah.
When was the last time? I mean, when was the last time you've heard of any rivalry like this? I think that no matter how negative like it can be for saying I think this is the next step in women's sports, especially women's basketball. To have.
Well, yeah, especially since they stay 4 years,
Yeah. And you can build those rivalries because I've never heard of a rivalry in the WNBA, and maybe it's just I don't read up about it enough, like as big of a rivalry as this. Maybe it's because I don't read up about it enough, and maybe there's like enough people reporting about it. But I definitely think this is going to help, and it's going to be a big thing. And hopefully they have a rivalry continue into the league. All right, moving on, we get the Hornets head coach, Steve Clifford, stepping down. I think, kind of obvious. I think it's expected. I mean, when is the last time the Hornets held a coach for more than a certain amount of time? It's because they can't develop. They can't develop the players. You have people like you have players like LaMelo on your team. You have talent on your team, and you're not getting anything out of it. Oh, okay. Brandon laughed when I said talent. Okay. Well,
you said they have talent on their team. You just named one player.
Who else?
They have Brandon Miller.
They had Kai Jones. They had a chance.
Brent Williams.
Then he left. Or
Miles Bridges.
Yeah, there's a lot with British baggage that comes with there.
What kind of talent are we talking about right now?
Yeah. This is pretty rough group of guys. But I think that if they had the right coach, if they were in the right situation, I think those guys could make the playoffs. And that's my hot take. I think, and the fact that Steve Clifford couldn't do that, I think, is a reason why he's gone. So,
well, they got to stay healthy too. So
sure, they have to stay healthy. I understand that. So he's moving back. I think it was into a more of a management role, which all these guys try to do to try to position themselves to get more money, which is fine. But at the same time, I kind of don't like that because if I didn't think he's a good coach. And if you're a bad coach, you're moving back into a management position to have even more of a say kind of into what's going on with the organization, then I would also think that's a bad thing because you're just, the problem with this here is that these guys who are higher up are, negotiating themselves or positioning themselves into taking these roles that just like hurt the franchise even more. Because eventually you're going to have all these former head coaches who are just terrible, who couldn't win, running the franchise. And then what do you have there? A franchise who's bad from the top down, bottom up, top down, all the way through, left and right. It's just bad, which is what the Hornets have been their entire existence. So that's a bad move, in my opinion. As long as I'm remembering correctly that he moved up to a management position or stepped back to be a different part of the team. So for that terrible move, I wonder who they're going to find. But no matter who it's going to be better than Steve Clifford.
Also, before we move on, staying in the NBA, I don't know if I heard this correctly, but the Minnesota Timberwolves were getting sold.
Yes.
And then the owner was like, "Nah, I'm
Glenn
just
Taylor.
joking."
Yep. Glenn
He
Taylor,
said,
Alex Rodriguez, and Mark Lore were set to buy a majority stake of the Timberwolves from Glenn Taylor. I think it started about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago when they started like making payments, and they were all making these payments and doing it all well. And at that time, the Timberwolves valuation was terrible. I think Ant was just, a new thing during that time. They didn't think he was going to be as good as he is now or have the potential. Or maybe they did, but they just didn't think it would do anything. And Glenn Taylor wants to sell the team. He's owned it forever. And he's letting these people make these payments. And then A-Rod and Mark Lore find out that apparently they are not going to be able to get the team anymore because Glenn Taylor is like, oh no, backsies. I want to take it back. I want the team now that they're going to be maybe a first seed in the playoffs and have a decent future at least for this year and then maybe next year if they can stay into the second apron of the luxury tax.
they were making payments and they got up to about 40% ownership of the Timberwolves, and they got to a date where they had to wire the money to get like, I think it was either 60 or 80% of the team. So like they were paying like $620 million or whatever. They had to wire that over, and they got to the deadline, but the NBA owners are supposed to like congregate and then talk about new ownership and like approve it. So they thought they had another 90 days to get the money to him because the league hadn't like announced it yet. Because like if they take ownership of the league's permission, I don't think they can do that. And so like they, in their eyes, they had 90 more days to get him the money, which they had the money. They hadn't missed a payment all this time. So they look like they're pretty like into it. And so
eventually what's going to happen is they're going to get ownership because it's going to go to court. It's going to go to all these legal proceedings. And what this is just a classic case of just, I think Alex Rodriguez said it perfectly. He said seller's remorse, which is what it is. I mean, Glenn Taylor saw that organization on kind of a rise. They have an outstanding superstar young player emerging, Anthony Edwards, and they have a decent future, at least for the next couple of years. So he saw that. He's like, you know what? Valuation's gone up. I want to sell. I don't want to sell anymore. So that's the story there. Another coach leaving, Eric Musselman. Josh, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Eric Musselman, a good coach in the SEC. Kind of thought he would take the Kentucky job if it was going to be offered to him. But Coach Cal's our guy. So we kept Coach Cal. And so Eric Musselman wanted out after a terrible season with Arkansas. Kind of went downhill. Everybody thought they'd come into the year, they would have a good chance to win the SEC.
They were like preseason top 10, right? Yeah,
I mean, they just fall off. They fell off quick. A lot of locker room issues and things like that. Some speculation. I'm not going to get into all that. I think we've had that conversation before. But he leaves his Arkansas job in the SEC to go to the Big Ten and USC. And a lot of USC people are leaving. And Eric Musselman hits the portal well. His UMass transfer that was transferring to Arkansas has now flipped to USC. He hits the portal. He hits it hard. I mean, he's getting a lot of guys from the portal to go to USC with him. So USC will be competitive, I guess, in the first year. I don't know if they'll be good, but he has a tendency to rebuild programs like Nevada. In his 3 years, he took them all the way to I think it was the Elite Eight or Sweet 16, or maybe in the Final Four. I can't exactly remember, but in 3 years, he rebuilt Nevada's program, so he has a lot more resources at USC. I've heard a lot of people speculating about who's going to take the Arkansas job, and there's about 3 names out there. There's the Kansas State coach. Can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Beat Kentucky.
He did beat all right, buddy. And then there's another one. Oh, dang it. Well, anyway,
I heard they were going to offer it to the Oakland coach because they say, like, if you can beat Kentucky, you can just, like, win the SEC. That's what I heard, though.
That's
not nowadays. Anybody can beat Kentucky nowadays.
Now that just gets you, like, mid in the SEC. You have to actually – but I think that would be a good – I think he'd be a great coach to hire, but I don't think he'll leave, dude. He's the longest tenured head coach, and all of it's been he's been there for 40 years. I don't see him leaving for Arkansas is my only thing.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think he's a great coach. But his system is kind of like, it's a gimmick system. So, like, it's not like it's not like what we were used to seeing every day. Like all the time you watch basketball, you're not used to seeing
So
what he
are we
runs.
making excuses for Kentucky right now?
No, I didn't even say anything about Kentucky. I'm just saying it's a gimmick system. So like, it's hard to play against for sure. But if you give a team a time to prepare and things like that, and I don't know,
The Horizon
probably
League's
do
miles different than the SEC. Like it's a Horizon League. They don't play much competition. I mean, it's sure Campy's like a great coach. Sure, he's the longest tenured head coach in Division I basketball. But is that going to translate to the second, third best conference in basketball? I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, so my pick out of the three other two guys would be Will Wade, which he was the LSU head coach, and he got in a little bit of a trouble with some allegations and some recruiting issues. But he would be the best because I mean he took McNeese State to the NCAA tournament this year, and he's built for SEC ball. He's been there, he's done that, and he's kind of been there, you know. And I think that's good for Arkansas if they get him.
Sure, for sure. All right, moving on. You guys just want to talk about Bronny and the NBA draft because that was breaking news this morning.
Yeah, Bronny James of USC, he declares for the NBA draft. I believe he's also in the transfer portal. But
Maintaining eligibility.
yeah, I want to say he doesn't get drafted, but I think his name holds enough weight that someone picks him up.
Sure.
That's why he did that today, though. Like he entered the transfer portal like days ago, and somebody was like, "Dude, just go to the NBA."
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the decision. I'm not like hating on him because like I don't play college ball, but I mean he did have that heart problem, but I don't think he's NBA ready.
Looking up his heart problem is crazy.
People are like using
he
that
only
as
averages like 4 points and like
Sure.
2
I agree.
assists.
I think that you have to be gracious and give him the benefit of the doubt with the heart problem. But at the same time, if he didn't have it, I don't see him averaging anything more. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's a All-American if he doesn't have that. I definitely think that you have to like give him, and it definitely sucks. I mean, there's no getting around it. Like it sucks. No one wants to have that happen to anyone. And especially for someone who needs to perform, he's the most pressure. I mean, dude, talk about Bronny James, man. That's probably one of the people in this world who have like top 10 most pressure on you in the entire world, dude. Your dad is LeBron James, and like, yeah, there's no way he'll ever live up to it, which is unfortunate. And that's something that's like probably hard to hear because I mean, you're told you can do anything. Not when your dad is LeBron James. You can't do anything when your dad's LeBron James. You can't be as good as him. It's not going to happen. It's just so unlikely. And Bronny doesn't have the physical giftedness that he does, and it's not hating. It's just the truth. And I wish the best for him. Do I think he's NBA ready? No. Do I think he could be signed to an NBA team for next season? Yes. And we'll see if LeBron comes as baggage with that, or maybe if Bronny comes as baggage with LeBron. It could go either way. Like, what if LeBron chooses to go to a new team? Although he already has made it pretty clear he's not going to have that happen. What if that happens? I mean, I don't know. And I feel bad for Bronny because, like, imagine what it's going to feel like. Let's say on draft night, let's say he go follows through and he's there on draft night and he realizes that, 60th pick comes around and he's not drafted. I don't know.
The Lakers pick him up for dirt cheap.
With this, that's probably what's going to happen. There's going to be if he doesn't get drafted, he'll get signed to an NBA team for sure. I'm no doubt about that. But will it be for any massive role? No. It might be even like a G League thing. Like, I mean, he's not.
Maybe the manager.
Maybe the manager. Hey, you never know. But I think if he stayed in college a few more years, I think he'd have a much better chance of being a solid role player in the NBA. That's my opinion. But I wish the best for him. And moving on to another guy I wish the best for, Chris Paul, or Rajon Rondo, actually. I
don't get that. I don't get that.
You don't get the joke? It's he kind of looks similar. They kind of look similar.
Have you never seen the video?
You didn't see that? Yeah, there's that video that gets posted on Twitter all the time.
Rajon Rondo's like in a shoe store and he's like, "Yo, what up,
Chris?" Yeah, I've seen that, but it's like the difference is one rings and one hasn't.
Okay, well, there's that difference, but at the same time, Rajon Rondo has officially retired from the NBA. I think he was last on the Cavs, right? I think before he left. I think he was on the Cavs. Not playing very much, and then decided to retire. Great career. Was it 2 rings?
Yeah. With Boston.
2 rings, yeah.
Mickey
Boston.
Mouse Clubhouse.
And overall, I mean, one of the smartest basketball players that has ever been in the NBA. The ball knowledge is incredible. Basketball
Wait,
IQ.
where did he go to college?
I think he went to the University of Kentucky, but I think he went before
Yeah.
Cal time. Before Cal,
He did.
He
Bill
did.
Gillespie.
Yep. Who really didn't really put anyone to the city.
God awful.
It's like his only good accomplishment.
Yeah.
But there's that as well. So yeah, moving on. We got another topic we talked about earlier, just really quick. And again, Angel Reese commits to the WNBA, and then Haley Van Lith enters the transfer portal. Brandon, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So after they, lost to Iowa and Caitlin Clark made them look silly, they both had 48 hours to decide whether they would go to the WNBA or stay another year. Now, I don't really know, like their eligibility. Obviously, Haley Van Lith still has eligibility left because she entered the transfer portal, so she will no longer be part of the LSU Tigers next year. But Angel Reese has decided that she will take her talents to the WNBA. I wish her the best of luck. And I mean, she had a great, came out of nowhere really last year. At least for me, not as much WNBA or women's basketball as I would like to watch, but, came on the scene, beat Caitlin Clark in the national championship game, and, did her best this year. But, what can you say? Caitlin Clark's going number 1. Paige Bucket's going number 2. Angel Reese could go number 3, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I think she's like 10th or like 5th or 6th, something like that.
The problem is she plays. I mean, her position in the on LSU might be different than what she's going to play in the league. Because I mean, doesn't she play as like a forward or a center? She's only like what, 6'5"?
Yeah, she's 6'3".
6'3", and she plays as a center.
She's only 6'3", bro. She looks like a giant.
I think she's 6'4", 6'5". I'm pretty sure.
No, it's on ESPN 6'3".
Oh, never mind. I could have sworn she was 6'5". Anyway, but yeah, there's that even more of a reason why it might not work. Like, it's not that it won't work out, but that she's probably going to be lower on the boards compared to people who are, or to women who are like more, I guess, in WNBA caliber, like in terms of like build and size for what role they play.
Second would be Cameron Brink. She's from Stanford, and then third is like Rika Jackson from Tennessee.
Exactly, and you don't really hear about any of these ladies because they're probably outstanding. They're just really good at their role.
Actually, Angel Reese supposed to go 7 to the Minnesota Lynx, Coleman.
There you go. Natty inbound for the Minnesota Lynx. I think we won the Natty like a couple years ago. I don't remember, but ever since we've been pretty bad.
Did you know there's only 12 picks in the draft though? That's crazy.
It is. I mean, there's only 12
teams.
There's only 12 teams.
I know, but they don't have a second round or nothing. It's first round only.
Really? I thought they had a second round. Oh, that's news.
You know when the draft is coming up, April 15th, man. 10 days.
Might have to do a live reaction.
I'm sure Indiana's holding its breath.
I wonder who they're gonna pick, guys. Let's. I'm pretty sure they sold out their season tickets already. Actually,
I'm sure.
That's crazy.
Is there anywhere near us that is WNBA?
Does Atlanta have a team? Would that be the nearest closest to us?
I don't know if Atlanta has a team or not. Hold on, I'm gonna look.
San Antonio, man.
Yeah, it might be San Antonio.
There's the Atlanta Dream.
No, that would be closer. Atlanta would be closer, probably, right? Than the Texans.
Yeah, you got Atlanta, Dallas.
That would be
we
the
could
closest.
go to Indiana if we wanted to. It's really Atlanta.
Sure.
Atlanta be way.
Looks like we're taking a trip to Atlanta, boys, to go see Caitlin Clark play.
Might have to. But yeah, moving on. We got Oakland Athletics, man. What a joke of a franchise, Brennan. You're probably more well suited to answer this, but what the hell are they doing? Can you let us know?
So yeah, the Oakland Athletics. Everyone's been telling them to move to Las Vegas for, I would say, like the past 4 years. Ever since the Raiders moved there, every Oakland team has gone out of Oakland, like Golden State, the Raiders, and now the Athletics will be leaving, I believe, next year. So through 2025 through 2027, they will be playing in a stadium in Sacramento. I believe it's a minor league stadium. I could be wrong. And then in 2028, they will officially become the Las Vegas Athletics, unless they change their name to whatever they want. Oakland, ever since their owner has taken over, ever since John Fish has taken over, the A's have just not been good. I don't know what he does that makes them so bad.
He doesn't spend any money. That's what it is. It's a
I don't know why you would want to buy a team and like not helped him. Because like my goal, like our goal, I'm making this our goal, is we got to get a lot of money to buy any team, any sports team. Because I feel like owning a sports team would be so cool. Like owning a baseball team, like there's so much money in that. You just have to put effort and time into it, and he just doesn't do that. Now,
Yeah,
granted,
I heard the Pistons are going to be for sale after this year
okay,
for like
anyway.
dirt cheap.
Like the Athletics, they've had talent. They just like their talent just leaves because like they're not good. Like
Yeah.
Matt Olson was on the A's, Matt Chapman, I want to say Marcus Simeon. Like these are all all-star caliber players. Sean Murphy for the Braves.
And coaches or people who develop or scout anyone wants to play for an organization who doesn't really care, who's just a for-profit. Because then imagine going to work every day knowing that whatever you do, it doesn't matter because you're basically just you're a minor league team for every other major league team in the MLB. Is that correct? Is my assumption?
No, I mean, if I was an MLB player and I found out I got traded to the A's, I'd be hurt. Like I'd rather go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because at that point, like obviously, like they're professionals, but people don't view them as professionals just because of how bad they've been.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like you look at them and you're just like, they're not gonna win.
But yeah, they'll be moved to Vegas in 2028, and until then they'll be playing in Sacramento. So NHL playoffs are also coming up. They start April 20th, which is the same day the NBA playoffs start, actually. If I recall, the first round, not the in-season tournament. I think that is the 15th through the 18th, 16th through the 18th, something like that.
You mean the play-in?
No, yeah, not the in-season tournament, the play-in. So that will be a little bit before, but the first round of the NBA playoffs start, and the NHL playoffs both start on April 20th, and the last few playoff spots in the East are wide open. So that'll be a little grab for the players in the East or the teams in the East. Moving on, we got a feels good story of the week. This week, we're talking about NC State's DJ Burns, baby Escalade. Not so baby though. He's 6'9", 275. This guy is a beast. So NC State.
No, he pushing 300. He closer to 300.
I think you might be right. But hey, dude, all the walking and stuff he's been doing around all these sponsorships, he might have lost a couple pounds off of that.
For sure.
Obviously, it's not a joke about his weight, man. He's just outstanding on the court. He's been playing out of his mind this tournament. And then I think it was back. They haven't lost a game since back in regular season play because they walked their way through like 5 games, 5 days in the ACC tournament, and then ever since they have not lost. And then most recently they played Duke in the Elite Eight, and now they're in the Final Four as an 11 seed. So everyone counted them out. They obviously would not have made it to the tournament if it wasn't for the ACC tournament, which is just a testament to how much these tournaments matter. I remember seeing some stuff on Twitter about like how they should just get rid of the conference tournaments and just make it at large, the entire 64 or 68 teams.
No.
And I was like, that has to be one of because I mean you'll never get Cinderella stories like these. And sure, like it's not very common that like a team from like the bottom half or the mid half will win out in the series, but neither is it common for Kentucky to win the ACC.
I don't know. I don't know why
Right.
Josh was saying no. I think this gives Kentucky a better chance to win.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
But one thing I would say is that like it is kind of interesting how the selection committee takes on Selection Sunday. They take into account how teams do even if they lose. Like the in-season tournament is basically considered just as, or even not, or maybe even more, actually probably more important than the just regular season play, which is one thing that I would say like, sure, you could argue about that, but I think that it's an integral part of college basketball to have these the conference tournaments. So, and that's the reason why we have NC State. That's why we have that's the reason we have our feels good story of the week this week. So, tearing up the court, knocked out their in-state rival Duke, and he's set to take on Purdue this weekend. He's going to match up with Zach Edey, which is going to be rough. 6'9" on what, 7'4"? That's going to be a rough. I think there's a chance. I mean, he plays. I think he's physically dominant enough to do it. I still think they're going to have to do something with Edey, some special stuff. They're going to have to make him foul out in like first half.
Oh, well, he doesn't foul though. Like, did you not watch the last game? He didn't commit a foul at all.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He just doesn't foul.
No fouls.
No fouls.
Zach Edey would never foul, but I think
no.
They're gonna have to like do some sneaky like taking charges. I don't know. They're gonna have to do something, pay off the refs, anything. But yeah, that's the feels.
Well, Purdue's already got that handled.
Yeah, they definitely have it. have that covered. Moving on, we got the courtroom for this week, and we were debating what the courtroom topic was going to be. Last week I won, so I'll be the judge this week. And the topic for this week that we eventually decided on is who is going to be the best coming out of the AFC South. Of course, with all the moves, or I guess just the one major move this week, but the moves in this offseason, the emergence of CJ Stroud this past season, and kind of the declining overall. Just the AFC South was declining, but now some of the teams are back on the come up. I remember 2 years ago, Jacksonville had some crazy moments. Trevor Lawrence, and then obviously the Colts have gotten their team mixed around, and then the Titans. They have their new quarterback Will Levis. They have the defense is pretty good. They got some pieces, and yeah. So I think it's a good debate to have, and I could give away the picks, but for now I'll like to invite the two. The prosecution and the defense into the courtroom. Or wait, I guess everyone should rise for me. But yeah, I'll rise for me. All right, everyone stand up. Stand up.
I'm standing.
All right, thank you. So I'm your honorable Judge Coleman in this edition of the courtroom on this fine April 5th Friday afternoon. And I'd like to first announce that Brandon will be the defense, given that his team that he thinks will be the best coming out of the AFC South, and by best I mean best record. And best seed, assuming that two teams get out of the AFC South. His team is the Texans, so he'll be the defense, assuming that's probably the consensus. I wouldn't say consensus, but there's definitely an argument to be made because Josh over here has picked the Titans, so he'll be the prosecuting his argument that the Titans will actually be better. And of course, we're using perfect legal terms in their best way as always. We should basically, by having this podcast, we should basically pass the bar with how great our legal references are. But stay with us. Obviously, that's a joke. So first, I'd like to call, since the prosecution has maybe considered the weaker argument, if you will, I'd like to call Josh to the stand to give his opening statement. And then Brandon will be able to make the final statement once we reach the end. But first, Josh, I want to hear a quick, concise, why do you think the Titans will be better than the Texans? Just a brief argument. Don't get into stats. Just to say, what about the team makes you think that they're going to be better?
Yeah, I got you. Thank you, Judge. Both teams have an up and coming quarterback. Will Levis is less probably prominent than CJ Stroud, but I feel like he has more potential to CJ Stroud. Just basic off arm talent. Wide receiver, you got Calvin Ridley, which coming off a good year in Jacksonville. Prior to that, before his suspension, really good in Atlanta. Breakout in Atlanta. Some called the next up, in Atlanta before he had all that trouble. D-Hop, not much to say there. One of the best in the game. Wide receivers. Who else they got? Tony Pollard, coming out of Dallas. Dallas wasn't using him correctly, he felt like, so he came on over to the Titans. And then you got a great offensive line that they're looking to build upon, maybe through more free agency or maybe even the draft. Defensive wise, they're about the same as the Texans statistically. They actually held less yards than the Texans last year. But yeah, all around great team. I think they got a new head coach. So I feel like they have some energy behind them, maybe like the Raiders did last year. So like that new energy coming in. And of course they got that top 10 pick like I talked about before. So future's bright in Tennessee.
All right, gotcha. Thank you for your statement. I'd like to turn it over to Brandon. Again, Brandon's choice is the Texans coming out of the AFC. Brandon, can you give a quick, maybe similar in terms of length and style, or however you want, really, but just a little breakdown of your point of view.
So I went with the Texans to be better because of one guy and one guy only, CJ Stroud. He is a game changer. Obviously, we've never seen a rookie season like he had last year. Now, obviously, Justin Herbert did very good his rookie year, but CJ Stroud was just, I would say, outstanding. And, they do have, I don't know if y'all knew this, but they got Joe Mixon this offseason. He's an absolute dog up in Cincy. And obviously, they just got Stefon Diggs. They already had a wide receiver one in Nico Collins. And Tank Dell was tearing it up down the stretch before he unfortunately broke his leg, that was just terrible. And on the defensive side, this year alone, they added Daniil Hunter. Obviously, they still have Will Anderson Jr., who was a finalist for Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. And they got not a big name, but he's a name. Jeff Okudah. He was great in college. Hasn't panned out yet in the NFL, but hoping he can change his tides there. But I'll just start you off with that.
right.
Just their newest acquisitions, man.
Gotcha. Appreciate it. Appreciate that for the defense. Ladies and gentlemen of the courtroom, and by that I just mean Brandon and Josh. So the prosecution and the defense. I've come across some troubling news, and I've realized that the Texans have one of the hardest strengths of schedule this upcoming year, and while the Titans have a very relatively, compared to the Texans, a weak strength of schedule. Looking
It's
at
funny
their,
that you say that, Coleman. 'Cause
excuse me, order in the court.
I just want to say I was looking that up too.
Okay. Well,
I was looking that up.
All right.
The fourth hardest
I don't think
schedule.
that helps your argument though.
Sure. Okay. Order in the court. I'd like to redirect the courtroom to me, the all powerful, almighty Judge Madlin, and I'd like to ask Brandon, how are you going to argue and say that, because of course this is about who's going to come out of the AFC South, and when it comes to coming out of the AFC South, you got to look at wins, and it's going to be tough for the Texans to get wins, assuming that this strength of schedule is accurate. Of course, it's based on last season's record and their team, so I don't think it takes into account any of the the craziest additions or all that stuff. It doesn't do any advanced metrics, just purely based off record from last year. But with that being said, a lot of teams didn't change, so this could be a big teller of why the Texans do get a certain amount of wins or not. And it says that the Texans have a really hard strength schedule. So how are the Texans going to overcome this, especially when they've historically been a bad team who hasn't had to worry about big games? I'd like to hear that from Brandon.
Yeah, so obviously the Texans are coming off a 10-win season, and not trying to throw shade at the AFC South, but that's about all it takes really to win the AFC South, is about 10 games. Now obviously I believe that the Texans will win more than 10 games next year, only because CJ Stroud's going to his second year. He gets a full off season with I wouldn't say a full off season, but he gets to train with Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, and now Joe Mixon. I mean, that's a scary five right there. Obviously, they've made some defensive changes that should help them compete against these, bigger teams that they have to play now, just because of, how good they did last year. Obviously, CJ Stroud had a phenomenal year last year, 4,000, plus passing yards. Now, can he sustain that? I would say yes, only because, you're just getting more reps. He gets, more, he knows what to look for in film now. I think, this year under his belt, it was just a great year. 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. What else can you ask for from, a rookie quarterback? He's really changed their franchise around because, as you know, they had Lovie Smith, who actually changed their franchise because he won the game, gave up the first pick, and the Texans then got to draft CJ Stroud instead of Bryce Young. And then, obviously, someone mentioned like the Titans' first round pick. The Texans don't have one this year because they gave it to the Minnesota Vikings, because the Vikings will obviously pick JJ McCarthy, the GOAT, but that's just besides the fact. And I also think, defense wins championships. And while the Texans have a great offense, I think adding Danielle Hunter is a great piece because he is someone that can get to the quarterback very quickly. They also had Derek Stingley Jr. and I'll just end that there. He had 5 interceptions.
Yeah. Brandon, I appreciate your argument because it does bring up a good point. I think it might be the consensus that the Houston Texans have a better roster. I think from almost top to bottom, it seems like they have players who are more proven. But with that being said, just because they're more proven doesn't mean anything, especially when it comes to the Texans. I mean, last year, a lot of the players in the Texans weren't proven, especially CJ Stroud. I mean, he was a rookie. Obviously, he wasn't proven in the league. So that brings me to Josh. I just questioned Brandon about the strength of schedule, Josh. How can you make up for the fact that a lot of these players on the Texans are like much more established, guys like Danielle Hunter and stuff like that? How can you make up for that and say that the Titans, I keep making that mistake, the Titans will have a better record?
Like I think one of you said before was like neither one of us have been put in a situation where we had to win tough games. So I think the Titans have an easier schedule, especially early on, for them to be able to mold together and like learn one another and go through some adversity, but as well be able to win those games. The Texans aren't going to have that early on. They're going to have to struggle really hard to win games. Now, can they? Yes, they have a talented group that definitely can. But I think it benefits the Titans to not have such a hard schedule. That way they can have a little bit of down like plays and drives and still come out on top. Will Levis in his second year, I think he's going to make a big jump. Of course, he didn't start the whole year last year, so his stats are a little skewed. They're not as good as CJ's. Obviously, CJ got the job day one. Will Levis kind of had to earn his spot, and I think he did that, especially in the second half of the season. I mean, let's just point out some big wins against Miami, that comeback win in Miami that showed you his leadership, and you showed how the guys around him can react to his energy. I think he just comes with a great energy, honestly. Like, if you just watch him play, he can sling the rock anywhere. Now, his accuracy and his reads the best. No, I think CJ has him in that. But I think Will has CJ in arm strength and just absolute, just physicality and athleticism. So it's kind of like a Josh Allen, in my opinion. Like, Josh Allen made a big jump, from, I think it was year 2, or maybe it was even year 1 to 2, but I think it was 2 to 3. I think Will Levis is going to make that jump, especially with the talented group around him. Sorry, what was the question again? It was just the scheduling.
It's like, now, how can you make up for a fact that a lot of these players on the Texans are more proven and stuff like that?
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't even mention. I totally forgot. We got Janarius.
Legarius?
Sorry.
Legarius
how do you say it? Yeah, Legarius Sneed. That's how I was saying it. Yeah. Anyway, we got Legarius Sneed. Having 4 years now, and that really helps our secondary a lot. And then we got, of course, I've already talked about the Calvin Ridley's, and then we have some O-line pickups that probably nobody even knows about or cares about, really. And we got a few linebackers in here that are executive rights. So, we got their rights. Some older linebackers, so, brings that older mentality to the locker room. Now, they were, I think they were right behind the Texans in some stats for defense. So, with these additions, I think it's a pretty even playing field, to be honest. I mean, I get the Danielle Hunter thing. Danielle Hunter, a great player, not to get it twisted. But I feel like for pound, I think it's pretty even. Now, I mean, it is what it is. You take what you can get. We got a good corner. They got a good pass rusher. So it just, I don't think it changes a lot defensively. I think we're more focused on what they can do potential wise with the offense. I mean, some defense players on the Texans, Will Anderson. I mean, can he make another jump, or is he going to regress? Time will tell. I mean, he definitely has potential to do so. But yeah, I mean, I just think having an easier schedule helps out the young Titans whenever they are learning one another.
All right. Unless you guys have anything else to say, I feel like I've come to a decision.
Well, I just want to highlight it again. The Titans have a top 10 pick. Now, will they use that for alignment? I don't know.
I think they should.
But let's say they don't. Let's say Malik Neighbors falls.
A receiver or
Brock Bowers. That's another threat that you have offensively. But the Texans can't do that. So, which I mean, they already have a great tight end. So, Dalton Schultz. I mean, it's a good tight end, but I think if you get Brock Bowers, I think it's not a competition offensively.
Yeah,
I think it opens the floor up a lot for Will Levis, especially.
It's a bunch of if and buts, maybe.
Well, I mean, it's not been done yet, so I can't really. Exactly. The potential is still there to do that. I mean, it just depends on what they want. They feel like they got a good tight end in there. I mean, that's up to them. But if you get a Brock Bowers that can open the field even more for Will Levis to swing the rock, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, he used tight ends a lot at Kentucky, so he's used to doing that. So I mean, it's just hypotheticals right now, but can't do much about it. All
right, the judge, Honorable Holman Medlin, has come to a decision. He's going to go into deliberation. Wait, no, he's not, because he just had a decision. Duh, come on, Judge. But he'll now give his decision. So at the end of the day, when you look at the AFC South, historically weak, at least in these past couple of years, it doesn't like Josh said, it doesn't take much to get out of there. I mean, people have done it with 8 games. This year, I suspect you'll have to have 10 or 11 actually, and that just points to the added competition that I think it will finish I'm not going to say who it is yet, but I think it will finish with those two teams at the top, the Titans and the Texans, or the Texans and the Titans. I think it will either go one of those two ways. And for my decision, I think, contrary to popular belief, I think that my only issue with the Titans isn't their quarterback position. It isn't Will Levis. I actually have faith in Will Levis when it comes to leading his team. I don't think that the difference between Will Levis and CJ Stroud is as big as it would need to be to make it so that the Titans would make it over, or the Texans would make it over the Titans. I don't think it's that. I think what it will be, if anything, will be on the Titans. They're a younger team. They do have some older players that they signed, yes, but they're a younger team, younger than league average, especially their 2023 roster. We don't know about the 2024 yet, but I think that the only reason I can't confidently say that the Titans will be better than the Texans in terms of record next year is because they just haven't seen the results yet. I think that they're perfectly capable of it. It's such a hard topic because I think they're perfectly capable of finishing first, but I don't think I can confidently say and say I would put my money on it because the Texans have already done it. We've seen the Texans do it, and we haven't seen the Titans do it. And that's the only reason I would say I think the Titans are perfectly capable of it. And for that reason, I'll side with Brandon on this one. But it's very close. This is the closest one I've actually had to decide yet.
I'd just like to say that the Titans are one of those teams that during this next NFL season that I'm like most excited to watch because of all the pieces that they did add. But like Coleman said, it's hard to picture them all playing. We don't know what they're gonna do. Like Tony Pollard, he could go out there next season. He could have 1,000+ rushing yards like Derrick Henry does every year. Or Calvin Ridley could be a bust. They just paid him all that money. He could.
I don't think that will happen though. I think
that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, but it's hard to decide what the Titans will do because of how many new players they have. Whereas the Texans, it's just really Stefon Diggs and Danielle Hunter, and you obviously know that those two people
Sure.
are game changers. Whereas Nico Collins, Tank Dell, if he comes back, fully healthy, CJ Stroud, and obviously Joe Mixon, but we all know what he's capable of doing. They've all proven themselves. Not saying that Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, and Will Levis haven't, but they're just younger. And
Josh, you have anything to? Oh, sorry.
It's just. I feel like the Titans are proven maybe not as much as the Texans, just because they do have some younger pieces. But you got to think. DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley have been in the league a long time, by young standards. They've been in the league long enough to know what is needed of them and things like that. And L'Jarius Sneed, he just won a Super Bowl. He's going to bring another presence to that defense that they haven't had in a while.
I think the Titans defense is I don't know about significantly,
but y'all forgetting that D'Amico Ryans is a defensive
I agree. D'Amico Ryans is a good coach. Now, like you're saying, we don't know how the Tennessee Titans coach is going to be. Is he going to be good or is he going to be bad? Name? I do, but not off the right top of my head.
Brian Callahan.
Yeah, it is Callahan because I think his dad is on the staff with him.
Nepotism. But I think or reverse nepotism actually. I don't know. I think that there's some areas where the Titans are actually better than the Texans.
And
actually, a lot of areas, but it's tough because I would not be confident in putting my money. I'd be more confident. And that's kind of how I made the decision in my head. I'd be more confident putting my money on the Texans. And I think that's fair. But at the same time, I would not be surprised whatsoever if the Colts, I just did it for the third time. If the Titans ran away with the division. I don't know.
we talked about Stefon Diggs being a locker room cancer. Is he going to be a cancer in the Texans too?
I was waiting for you to bring that up. Actually,
that's proven. That's a proven fact. He's a locker room cancer. So is he going to drain
this fact?
The Vikings, the Bills now. You just see him get upset.
Maybe they just can't handle a star. Maybe they just can't hang.
Maybe he just thinks he's a star and he's really not. He's not. I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's better than Calvin Ridley.
Well,
not that much better.
Okay, yeah, not that much better. I think he's better than
maybe
Calvin Ridley,
maybe a hair better than him, but
his attitude makes up for it though, for sure.
Your number one option's barely better than our second option. I don't know about it.
No, I definitely.
He's our number one. He's our number 3.
Yeah, okay, buddy.
Okay.
Nico Collins is not like that. He's good. He ain't that good.
You know where Nico Collins is from?
No, not really.
Michigan.
Of course. University of Cheaters. And with that, on that note,
eating his face over there.
on that note, we'll move on to our picks from next week. We didn't have any picks from last week. This is going to be the start of our new season. So season 3, the wild cards. Again, last week we didn't pick any games, but the week before that, Josh won. I got second place, and Brandon got last place. We already talked about that, so we don't really need to re-go over it. But this season, again, we have a winner pick our punishment for the year or the season, I guess. And this year. Or last season, Josh won, so Josh will be picking the punishment. And without further ado, Josh, what is the punishment for the person who loses this upcoming season of 100 games in 10 seasons?
Yeah,
Or, sorry, 10 weeks.
I really couldn't come up with one like that great, I don't think. But like, I was going by. Of course, I live in Panama City, and there's a bunch of people here. And I was just going down Front Beach Road and just relaxing. I had my windows down, jamming a little bit. And I hear like sounded like a bird or something. I don't know what it was. But it was actually the karaoke bar I was driving by. This woman was singing.
Oh, no.
It was terrible.
Oh, no.
That gave me the idea that
whoever
loses has to get up on the karaoke stage. Do a little
my
karaoke.
gosh. And how about this? Whoever who goes up and do it, we got to record it and put it on the pod. We have to put.
And we get to pick the song.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, this is bad. That's definitely not what I wanted to hear. But it won't matter because I'm not going to lose. So there's that. And with that out of the way.
Could you imagine if Brandon loses back to back? He's going to pay for our dinner and then have to get up and sing. He's
going to have to pay for we're going to a place that has food and karaoke, and he's going to have to all-inclusive event. Basically be treating us the whole night. Moving on. So let's just start on. We got week 1 of season 3 of the Wildcards picking games. What could be better? And we're starting off Friday. Tonight, we got number 3, NC State. This is women's basketball versus number 1, University of South Carolina. Final 4. All of us have South Carolina winning that. And then we have, again, tonight, another game, number 3, UConn versus number 1, Iowa. And all of us have Iowa. We're very confident that's going to be an Iowa versus South Carolina final. Of course, South Carolina is, they're like the Warriors of.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't lost a game yet.
They're the new UConn Huskies. That's what they are.
I mean, yeah, there's these. I just don't know how they do it to the level that they do it. Shout out J. Cole. But I don't. It just doesn't make sense to me how they're so dominant and have been so dominant for so long. But that's why I have them. But of course, I'll say that, and NC State will win tonight. And also, really quick, just to put some knowledge on y'all. If NC State and UConn win today and then they win tomorrow, it'll be an NC State UConn final in both the women's and men's March
Wouldn't that be crazy though?
That'd be
like the craziest thing ever.
That'd be super cool.
That'd be Kentucky in a few years now that they have the new women's basketball.
No, because you're saying Kentucky will be underdogs. They'll be ranked 11.
Yeah, they probably will.
The standard will be changed.
The only way we win.
Cal gets us relegated to D2.
I don't know why y'all don't do that. Maybe y'all should become the Cinderella team.
That's what I'm thinking. Go a few years and not win it. Like go back to the
standard is too much. Well, dude, that one year in 2021 was too much.
And 2013 and 2021 are like years I forget about. Yeah. I don't like thinking those things.
I actually watched more Kentucky games than any other season during that 2021. I don't know why. I watched every single game. The Isaiah Jackson.
Had nothing else to do during
COVID. Isaiah Jackson year. He was great.
I think it's like the least amount of games I watched that year because I was like, I'm not watching Dante Allen play for Kentucky. He's not that good.
And who's the? Oh my gosh, what was his name? Who was the guy?
Terrence Clark?
No, the point guard. What was his name?
Oh, Devin
Askew. Devin Askew. Oh man,
dude, terrible.
There are some players. I don't always harp on players, but dude, I don't know how much longer I could have watched him. But I did. I watched every game. So there's that. All right, Saturday we got NC State versus Purdue. Number 11 NC State with Baby Escalade, DJ Burns versus Zach Edey and Purdue, and Josh has NC State. Wow. Okay. And Brandon and I have Purdue. We have the Purdue. We're betting that Purdue, spoke with the officials. And then we also have Alabama versus UConn, and all of us have UConn in that. I am super surprised and honestly kind of impressed that Alabama made it this far. I was expecting it to be a first round, second round exit, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought so too, especially how streaky they are.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, streaky gets you to the Final Four, I guess.
Can they get hot enough to beat a UConn though?
I don't know. And they have a worse roster than last year, which is crazy.
I know.
So you never know. Now on Sunday we got Rockets at Mavs, and all of us have the Mavericks. Anyone else want to take over? I feel like I'm yapping.
I think Brandon's got it.
I guess I'll go. Our another game on Sunday we have is the Wolves at the Lakers. We all had the Wolves.
Yes, sir.
Nothing much to say there. Goats.
Yeah.
Monday we got a little baseball. We got the Houston Astros at the Texas Rangers. Battle of Texas. Me and Josh went with the Rangers here. Coleman went with the Astros. Coleman?
Sure,
Why,
I'll give you
why
some.
the
I'll give you some
cheaters?
start. I picked the cheaters against the reigning national champions or the reigning MLB champions. I don't know why. I feel like national champions. You can only call a college team national champions. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you don't,
Yeah, it's the World Series though.
You're right. So I
World
guess
Series
they're
champs.
world champions. Okay, that makes sense. I have it sorted out in my head. Thank you for the lesson. Actually makes sense to me now. I don't know why that never clicked. Anyway, obviously the Astros aren't off to the best start this year. I think they're what 2-5 or 2-4 or something like that. They haven't been winning, but they've had some tough games, and I like the pitching matchup. So in that game, and I think I think it's an away game for them. But they've been in these situations before. It's a rivalry, just like FSU Florida, man. The game's always going to be close. So we'll hope that the Astros pull out. For
Especially if they have a trash can there.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure there's no banging trash can.
Oh.
The joke's almost getting old, but it's still funny. Then we got the
I mean, I don't think it'll ever get old.
Probably
I
won't.
don't either.
They
Like
cheated.
if you can cheat using a trash can, that's crazy.
Yeah. All right, Brandon.
But
Next game.
Our next game on Monday we have is the Detroit Tigers at the Pittsburgh Pirates. Coleman went with the Pirates. Me and Josh went with the Tigers. Honestly, a toss-up game. As of right now, they're both 6-1, so it's a great matchup. But the Tigers just won today, and the Pirates will play later today. So
Yeah.
we don't know.
The records will be different by this time because this is Monday. So it's a couple days from now. But I do think the Tigers are unfortunately like looking pretty decent in the AL Central, especially when I'm a Twins fan, and Twins, they lost our guy Royce Lewis day one. After claiming he was like tired of
Dude,
being.
he was supposed to have like the best year.
Yeah, he's our best player. He's claiming that, maybe he's supposed to be maybe soon be our best player. He was claiming, or he was kind of upset with fans. I saw on a podcast that that people were calling him like injury ridden and stuff, and then he gets injured, no contact injury, on a base hit, or I think he was just running the bases. I think he was on second, but unfortunate. He's injured. I think he's going to be reevaluated in a couple weeks, but. I'm very sad, but I think the Tigers will win this game. But I kind of have to just go because I've made bets with all my friends who are Tigers fans, both Brandon and some guys off the podcast that they have to lose. So I can't go with them. So yeah, that's my rationale.
All right. On Tuesday, last games of the week, we have the Boston Celtics, who are now the undisputed number 1 seed. Right, best record in both conferences.
Yep.
Last time I checked. And they are facing the Bucks of Milwaukee. Josh and Coleman went with the Celtics. I got the Bucks here. I think the Bucks. I mean, obviously, this is Tuesday. I mean, the Celtics could sit players. It's kind of what I'm hoping for. Whereas the Bucks, they need that number 2 seed.
I didn't think about that.
I
feel
mean,
like-
I don't really know how many games are exactly left,
Sure.
but I just assumed that.
There's no way they sit. There's no way they sit because this could be a matchup that they have. I mean, well,
Yeah, I mean, probably
they
not.
need info. They need a reconnaissance.
I'm just, fingers crossed that Damian
Sure.
Lillard, gets matched up against Jaylen Brown and drops 60 on his head. But,
Gosh.
who can guard Giannis? That's all I'm going to say. And last game of the week, we have the Golden State Warriors at the Lakers. Joshua Coleman went with the Lakers. I went with the Warriors. I just feel like Steph Curry always gets the best of LeBron. Whether it's in the finals, 3-1, you could say that. But, hey, I think LeBron just isn't as good as Steph Curry, in my opinion. So that's why I got
agree.
Curry here.
It's a deep statement for the last little bit of the podcast, but we'll go with that. Brandon, we chose the last 4 games we chose differently. Just interesting. Remember the last time that happened in season 2, the end of season 2. That's how I won That's how I made sure I didn't lose. So we'll see.
I
Yeah,
actually-
but you
I
also
hate-
picked me last time though, so
I
Do
hate
it.
this punishment.
The punishment, the karaoke.
Karaoke's terrible.
I'm very disappointed that Josh had to drive by that karaoke bar, but yeah, Brennan, I'm looking forward to having you sing some karaoke. And without further ado, that's the end of the podcast for this week. I want to thank everyone for listening all the way through. And my name's Coleman. I want to wish you guys a great rest of your week, and peace.
peace.
Peace out.